Hello everyone, it is Rui. Today is episode 10 and it is actually the final episode before the whole island tour. So today I am going to be working on the shopping district, or at least making it like more fleshed out instead of just one big plot of land. And so I'm just going to get started. The first thing I do is I move the storage sheds and the pipes to the side, and I pick up all of the weeds and the trees and put them in my pocket so I can use them for later. And I do get rid of the rocks and just clean up a little bit, just in general before I start to build. That's usually how it goes, but with so many rocks, it takes a while and I just had to just clean things up. So my initial thoughts while I was recording this, I actually did have a little bit of a voiceover during recording, but then the audio got mixed up again. So it's fine. I'm fine with the voiceover. And I think throughout the build, this area was pretty active with a lot of villagers, so you may see some of them around, like Marshall here. They're just hanging out and stuff. So yeah, I initially had no idea what I wanted to do with this build, which is why I'm like moving the camera around, trying to think of what I can do, and just unsure how I wanted the layout to be. Of course, the thumbnail shows what I eventually ended up with, but initially I had completely no idea what to do, and this is like my thinking phase where I just move the camera around or I keep it as still as possible while I think. Again, I did not use any real life references. This was just part of like me testing and thinking of how I wanted things to align. So the first thing that I did was I made like a little path to the beach because this space otherwise would not be utilized. So I was like, okay, I might as well make it something that leads to the beach, and I can figure out what I want to do on the other side later. But here I am putting down these sidewalks, and I wanted to put like some crossing patterns over there, but I think I eventually get rid of it because it just makes no sense to walk into trees. So there's that, but here I am putting down more crosswalk here. I think here it just made more sense because you're going to the beach, you need to cross the street to get to the beach. And Lucky and Raymond are talking, and I think he said something bad to him. I do talk to Lucky like right now just to find out what's going on, because I'm worried about him. Like, is he sick? Is he sad? But he just ended up like saying like, oh my gosh, you finally talked to me. So I think it's because I haven't actually talked to Lucky in a while either, so I couldn't find out what he and Raymond talked about, even though I could have. I was just so busy with the build. But yes, this is the last building episode of the modern Japanese farm town. I feel like at some points I did stray away from the Japanese farm town theme, and I feel like I've done some of that in some parts of the island. It happens, of course, like when you find a build online or when you make a build that you like so much that you kind of deviate from the theme a little bit. Sometimes it's okay, but yeah. Here I am working on, honestly, I had no idea what I wanted at first. I knew I wanted to have at least some water here, like a water feature or like something like that. And the storefronts are basically like another fake building next to resident services. And since it's a shopping district, I had the idea of adding in like a little bit of a tiny convenience store, I guess, like a self-checkout. Like you grab the items from the outside and then pay for it inside. And I did have that thought, but then I eventually actually moved the ice cream machine, the not ice cream machine, it's like, what do you call it? But I eventually moved the ice cream case and move it to in front of Nook's Cranny, like the area that I have empty right now, because it just makes more sense there than having it far away. So like the concept is basically, I guess, you go across the street and you buy something, or like you intend to buy something but you pay for it inside the store, like kind of like a trust in the customers, I guess. So there's that. So I moved the shopping carts and everything over there, and it's pretty simple, but I really like it. I think it's like pretty cute. It's not overly complicated, so it just works in my opinion. So I changed this area into just public seating, I guess, and I do change it a little bit toward the end, and I have the idea of extending the cliff. I just wasn't sure how I wanted it to look. Did I want Able Sisters to have like a road there or something like that? So I just put down pathing and then I extend the cliff. Get rid of the rocks, of course, because they're just in the way. Although I am curious where the rocks will like spawn, especially since I got rid of so many. But here I have decided to make the area in front of Able Sisters like actually just sidewalk, or just a place where you can walk, and then also have some more water features. Again, I feel like I just needed a little bit more water and another place to fish, because I don't have like a lot of ponds on the island, and these are technically not ponds, these are more just like, I don't know, like sources of water. And here I wanted to do something with the castle walls, but it just ended up not looking how I wanted it to, so I decided to just stick with the storefronts, and I had so many in my inventories, I might as well just use them. And I wanted to do another fake building again, so I just wanted to put an incline here as well, just to get to the second tier, because even though you could technically get to the second tier from behind Able Sisters and Nook's Cranny, it's kind of a long walk, so accessing it from here would make it much easier. And I feel like this has been going through my head like the whole time, but I feel like I made the island a little bit impossible to, not impossible, but difficult to walk around, and it takes a while to get to actual inclines, which I'm okay with. I think that's a given if you're in like a farm town. Like you have to travel at least, if it's very big, or at least I'm basing it off of my family's like hometown, like to get to the city it's like a 30-minute drive compared to where I live. If you do a 30-minute drive, you're going through like at least 7 towns, maybe, if you're lucky, like 7 or 8 towns. And I finished the cliff here, just for a quick side note, but I finished the cliff here. So basically, circling back to the long walks around this island, it makes sense because if you live in an area where there's a lot of acres of land, it's going to take a while to get to the next like place if you're like a big connected farm community. So it just makes sense, like you'd be probably either working right next to the farm, or the place that you're trying to get to is kind of far. So here I am trying to work on the fake building, but it just ends up being storefronts, I think. And then Marshall also interrupted me while I was building. I thought maybe he was going to teach me a new reaction, but it just ended up being something else. He had the audacity to steal the only safety railing that I had in my pocket that I intended to use for the parking lot up there. So I had to go back and get it again. And I was like, okay, I got a record box, which actually came into play a little while later. So this fake building, I actually wanted to put something here, like something functional. And eventually I end up putting in a place where I don't know if villagers can sit down here, but it's like a very covered kind of store. So I tried out the medieval building sites, which I really do like, but then I ended up like not using it as the main facade of the second floor of the building, and I ended up going back and getting more storefronts and everything like that, so it would just look better. And while I was doing this, I was actually watching RoboCop, but not the original, the one from 2018 with Joel Kinnaman. McKinnaman, yeah. He's the guy that was in that one TV show, Carbon something. I forget, but that was like a really cool show. I wish they had way more seasons. And then he was also in the superhero movie, which I don't think I can say that word, but The Squad, you guys know, that Squad. And I feel like he does the same accent for a lot of his roles, especially if he's trying to be American. Like, he sounds like he's trying to sound Southern, I think. I'm not saying like a specific type of Southern accent, but he puts on that accent for when he wants to be like sounding American. So it was weird hearing that and also building this at the same time. But yes, this is basically going to be a bookstore for the second tier, because I wanted to have a bookstore. So when I say I deviate from the theme a little bit, this is what I mean. I put in a random bookstore here, and it kind of reminds me of my state's capital, where we have a bookstore that is actually outside, and people can go grab a book and then pay for it inside the store. So it's kind of like that concept that I talked about before with the little convenience store-ish thing that I had in front of Nook's Cranny. Like, this would be the second kind of store that I would have, and I feel like it kind of fits into the farm town theme a little bit, because there could be like local shops, and it makes sense since this is like the shopping district kind of. Not really. Initially I wanted to do like a flea market kind of thing, but I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So I just stuck with this. So honestly, I feel like having this as a second floor bookstore is kind of okay-ish. I don't know. I do like having it there. I feel like it could be like a roadside bookstore. I don't know. But since I said in the last episode I wanted some like complicated water type of terraforming, I'm going to do that here. It's just, I'm not really finished, but I do go through that whole thing. But one thing while I was terraforming was that Kabuki, you can see him. He's like hanging out, walking around, but he eventually decides to basically disturb my cliff terraforming and just walks over and decides to basically not allow me to make cliffs on both sides. So, well, this literally frustrated me to no end. Even though it was only a couple seconds, I was like, are you serious? You never hang around me, or you barely hang around me when I'm building, but you decide to do that when I'm making a cliff. Like, it's just, make it make sense. Also, Shino in those glasses is so cute. But yeah, here is the semi-complicated start of the water terraforming. I wanted this to just basically be like an area that closes things off. I don't necessarily want to put in a bridge, especially since I've already built it out, like the area to be what it is, and the villagers and I can just access the beach from the other incline by Lolly's house, which I will put in, and that will be included in the final tour. So here I'm just doing some, terraforming of the cliff, going to put a tree at the third tier, and then just adding flowers like the green mums and white mums, just putting those in. And honestly, this part, it kind of took me back to terraforming and decorating when I did that for the hot springs theme. So I kind of wanted to tap into the complicated terraforming parts that I have made dormant while I was making this island. So there's that. I initially wanted to extend the 3rd tier, but I eventually get rid of that because I was like, what am I thinking? This is not gonna work. So I think I'll eventually figure out what I want to do there, but it will come to me eventually. I feel like in the final tour you all will see it. So here is basically me after dinner. I have decided to actually work on this area, which I wanted, again, I did say I wanted to make like a little park or something like that. So I do end up making a park of some sort, I guess. Here, I go through a couple of pathing complications, I guess, I don't know. Just a few, and then I settle on dirt path, and then I eventually change the water terraforming. As you can see here, well, you will see in a couple seconds, but the dirt path is very, very important because I wanted to make sure that when I put down pathing, that it will go underneath the custom codes, like what you see here. And I do grab the fences that I had earlier by the convenience station and switch it with jail bars because I need the fences. And I do go to Treasure Islands and get a ton of fences so I can put them down for my build. And yeah, like this whole thing basically is going to turn into a little park, I guess. Yeah, like a little park. And it will involve the fences. I kind of was channeling what I had before, which was I think I built a school. Yeah, I had a school build, and then I also had a soccer field build. So yeah, this is basically going to be the soccer field next to the shopping district. It's totally random, but I don't know, I just wanted to have that on my island at least and just kind of have fun with it. I don't know. It was just a way to fill up space, honestly. But I really do like what I had in the end, so it's not really anything lost, I guess, if that makes sense. And yeah, so this was after I did a little bit of Treasure Island hunting. I did grab a lot of other stuff as well, so it took me about maybe 20 minutes, and the sun was setting. But I think it's like really, really nice. It kind of fits with the overall build of this soccer field. And while I was building this, I actually watched all of Kung Fu Panda 2. That was on Hulu, so I was like, might as well just rewatch that movie. And yeah, it's like a great movie. I feel like any person can watch it anytime. Oh, and I'm moving the fences here because they did not line up with the fences on the other side, so I had to move it like half a space over. And I also decided to use the sidewalk bump custom path that I barely used, honestly, and I'm thinking of sprinkling that all over the island, so once it's the final tour, you'll see some sidewalk bumps. And here I was struggling a little bit because I was not sure what I wanted to put next to the drink machines, so I decided to just basically go to Harv's Island and re-customize the hand washing area, turn that into gray swatch. And then I put down some weeds, and then I decide to put down like a garbage bin, like just put random stuff. And then I decided to turn the soccer field into kind of like, it's a little bit abandoned, or like it's not kept very well, so it's like at the point where there's weeds growing on the field, even though it's like a dirt field. Like the weeds have made their way from wind, the seeds and stuff. And yeah, it's like very kind of unkempt. Yeah, it's not tidy. Like the villagers are too busy focusing on farming than to really worry about it. And I don't know, I wanted to incorporate that type of filler, if you will, onto the island, and I think it's pretty nice. So yeah, all this yapping basically is like signaling that this is the end of the episode, even though we have a couple more minutes left. So I'm going to do like a little walkthrough of my build and also update you all on the rest of the build. So this is a last building episode, and I will be building a lot more, just like the last part of the island off camera. I will be having a tour up very soon. Probably it will follow like the same 3-4 day schedule cycle, and it will be released. And then after that, I may spend 1 more week on the island before saying goodbye and then starting a new island that will probably come in like maybe 2 weeks, maybe a week after this video is released, since I'm always filming videos basically a week in advance, a week and a half in advance before release. So yeah, I'm pretty excited that this series is coming to an end, and then I'll have a new series up about the whole island that I will be working on. So please leave your suggestions on what like theme or core I should go with. I'm very leaning towards elegant core because I've already done, you know, the Japanese theme, the modern farm town theme, and I think I really want to battle the elegant core type of stuff. But let me know what you guys think, what I should do next, even though it's so ahead, like it's basically 2 videos ahead of what I want to do. But yeah, the bookstore is honestly, I feel like the highlight. I did take pictures of it for the thumbnail, but I think I'm just gonna keep it for myself since this episode is all about the shopping district. But yeah, I am very appreciative of you all watching. So if you made it to the end, watch until the end, listen to the end, I really appreciate it. Next episode will be the final tour of the farm town, and I hope you all will tune in. And yeah, again, I really appreciate you all sticking with me for all 10 episodes. So it's been really great. And yeah, I will see you all in the next video. I'll see you. Yeah, bye. Bye bye.